Well, hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon, as it may be for you. Um, well, I'm very excited about this class this morning. I have been working on it uh, up to the last minute, and of course, preparing to talk about anxiety and arranging all my slides to explore this phenomenon is anxiety provoking itself. So I'm going to take just two deep breaths to kind of settle myself down here. So this is the last class in our current series of three, and we'll have a weekend or two off before we begin another series of three topics to be announced. So stay tuned to your emails. And with that being said, I think I just want to launch into this thing. I've called this presentation the tyranny of anxiety. This is a phrase that comes from my wife. She's actually written a marvelous poem about that. And what I mean by the tyranny of anxiety is twofold. Both anxiety is pervasive in our own lives and in the culture around us. It is part of the human condition. There is, in fact, much to fear and much to be anxious about. And in a healthy sense, that fear and that anxiety spurs us to pay attention to what's going on in ourselves and what is going on in the world around us so we can deal. But in a not so positive sense, this tyranny of anxiety, as it begins to spin out of control into in one way or another, can be a highly detrimental obsession in our personal lives and in our relationships to the world around us, and indeed in the world around us. So fear and anxiety are there for good reasons, but when we lose control and our ability to cope with those anxieties in an ongoing, healthy and productive and adaptive way, they indeed become a vicious tyranny over our minds and over our bodies, with all kinds of nasty consequences for ourselves. So what we will be doing today is a survey of the psychological and physical effects of this tyranny of anxiety and their impacts on our own functioning in our daily lives and in our roles as teachers and facilitators for students and clients. Uh, Various levels and states of anxiety are one of the first things that I always know I am going to be confronting with any new client that comes into my studio to experience my work of calming, soothing, relaxing, recoordinating movement patterns, examining behaviors, and all the rest of that that goes into my therapeutic practice. So I don't know, including myself, anyone who is not one way or another caught up in this web of anxieties. And it is my role, and it is all of your roles as teachers and facilitators and therapists to learn to effectively deal with that anxiety within ourselves so we can be our best therapist, our best facilitator, our best healer and helper, and so that we can continue to develop the ways in which our healing practices help clients meet, confront, and learn to deal with and control and bring down levels of anxiety that can be so damaging to our mental lives, our social lives, and ultimately our relationship with the world at large. So that is what this survey will be about this morning. Oh, by the way, I want to say before we begin, as always, the chat box will be open, and I invite questions at any point in this presentation. And I also invite not only questions, but comments, because I think what we'll be going through will arouse our comments about people with whom we deal, either in our daily lives or in our practices. And no doubt will arouse um, reflections on our own anxieties and their causes and what to do with them and about them. So I'm hoping this is going to be a very free floating conversation this morning. We'll take time to answer questions as they arise. We'll take a break, we'll take a longer pause for questions and observations just before our mid-time break. And we'll have an open floor for those kinds of questions, observations, and discussions before this thing is over. So please, we are confronting an issue that is part of the human condition and part of everyone's developmental belief systems and situations and confrontations in their own daily lives. Let us be honest with each other, and let us be open with each other with our questions and our observations and our sharing. So the very act of examining the causes and the symptoms of anxiety can in itself be anxiety provoking. So as we proceed, do take the time to calm yourself, to clear your thinking, to focus on your questions and observations, and buckle up. In the situations we find ourselves in the world today, our pandemic that is affecting not only ourselves, but the globe as a whole, economic crash that is coming in the coattails of that pandemic and its the attempt to control it, global warming and disasters that are increasingly linked to it. I'm sitting here in California, where that is very present and very provoking situation of rampant wildfires on a scale in which we've never seen before. Um, the local politics, how those local politics mix with the politics of my state and the relationship of my state to the union. And moving on with our list of anxiety-provoking situations we find ourselves in at the present, there is also the confrontation with the collapse of so many dysfunctional and unsustainable systems that are there to help us and support us, but have become over time dysfunctional and unsustainable. This includes our educational system, our system of healthcare, an economy that increasingly serves only the well-off, and the concentration of capitalism, the consequent enormous gap between the rich and the poor, the well taken care of and the desperately needy in our society. This also includes sharply divided political camps and ideologies we find ourselves immersed in. May I say for myself, the threat of an authoritarian government is very much looming in the possibilities of our future. and demanding action from us to steer our culture, our society, our government away from such a development. It can happen here, and it is happening in other places in the world. And our stellar leader is obviously quite sympathetic with a lot of these authoritarian regimes and enhancing his own control of us and our society. We must find a way to survive collectively these threats and personally